Okay, that was Attack on Titan, Season 3, Episode 13. What's on your mind? I can sense something is on your mind.
What's on my mind is that, I mean, like, I could be, like, reaching and grabbing something that's, like, doesn't even exist. But this outro, I use as evidence to further my idea that Annie, Berthold, and Reiner we already know they've got too comfortable and against what their mission was. They cared for these people they were meeting. But I wrote in my book during it, vibes of friendship. Even those that are now enemies. And I feel like they're showcased in it. We're seeing all of these moments. Why would we be seeing this now? All of them together in what we know created such hardships for Reiner, especially internally, you know? Like, why are we seeing all of these moments now and being like, hey, remember all of this time these people spent together where they really truly cared for each other, they were close. And I feel like since we're about to go up against Reiner and Berthold again, and Annie is showcased in a few of these shots as well, I'm like, I think it furthers the possibility that the end game for Reiner and Berthold is not necessarily defeat by death.
I don't know about the defeat by death thing, but I definitely see where you're coming from with, like, the theme and the outro. Just to touch on it real quick, that was, I think, one of my favorite songs I've ever heard, intro or outro, in regards to Attack on Titan. I love that song. But I think that the history and relationships that Berthold and Reiner are going to definitely come into play this season. Throughout, I expect conversation while fighting. There's a bit in Naruto Shippuden that there was a conversation of, like, you only, like, know each other's true thoughts once you're in battle. I'm very badly paraphrasing, but I think that there could be a better understanding of each other maybe through battle or even just actually talking. But there's a lot to go through this episode, I feel like. Did you like the intro song?
I would need to hear it a time or two again to decide how I felt about it, because that's what it took me for the last one. It took me a few listens, a few episodes to really love it. I agree with you, what you were saying during it, is it felt like a sequel to the song probably before the last.
I think season 2.
Season 2.
Yeah. It felt like a part 2, or like it felt, it gave me very similar feelings. I think the first thing I want to say is that I think it's really cool that they're utilizing luminescent ore, like, in the way that they're doing, you know? Mm-hmm. I think that it's really cool that they are taking this thing and, like, we saw it utilized in homes and potentially weapons.
And now they have flashlights.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then, like, as I was watching that, I was like, did they have flashlights before? Like, how are they seeing in the dark? Did they just stop doing things in the dark? I could not remember. Was it, like, lanterns with fire?
Maybe. I just think it's a peek in that a civilization or a community who has access to Titan control can very easily advance. You know?
Yeah, and I don't know if we necessarily saw new blades. I don't think Levi stabbed Reiner with... I think there would have been more showcase of the blade itself.
Yeah.
And someone might have commented, ooh, is it gonna work?
Yeah.
If that was the new weapon.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Erwin obviously brought up the new weapon, referring to his side.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Another thing that I really wanted to touch on in this episode is not only, like, the reintroduction again of that book that Armin had, but Aaron's perspective on it, because I think that it's interesting. Maybe I forgot, or maybe it's new information, that it, like, Aaron used to definitely, like, look up to the skies, and, like, I think it's safe to say he would think about that kind of stuff, like, not that specifically, but just, like, I guess the fact that Titans might be, like, keeping them from things potentially, but the fact that Armin bringing up these examples and seeing the passion and, like, hope in Armin's eyes really drove Aaron to feel trapped in a small cage in a huge world, my freedom stolen by those unthinkable fiends.
I think this is a pinnacle moment.
It is.
From our understanding of Eren and his process, his kind of life up from when we met him to now. I thought that he got invigorated from his mother's death and that whole, but to think that he was really thinking about these things beforehand, I hadn't even registered. Like, I hadn't, it adds to his progress and his story.
It does. We knew that he wanted to join the Scouts beforehand, but I think that this could even answer the question that we had to that look Eren gave Armin last episode when he brought it up again. I think that it's what brings this rage out of Eren and like this like reminder of this is what they're actually doing.
But like when we met Eren, he had an anger towards the Titans. He wanted to join the Scouts, but he had an anger towards the Titans, that the Titans were keeping them in a cage. But he's now, I don't know, it's just so interesting to know that he was thinking these things before kind of everything went to shit.
Yeah.
And he really had to kind of face the reality of being cattle and not having control or freedom. And I didn't even think that he was thinking of it on a level that deep.
Yeah. Like, it would be interesting to, like, rewatch after something like this, like, information. Because, like, it's knowing motivations of a character that you don't learn until later on.
Like, at first I thought it was like a he, as a kid, he thought the Scouts were the coolest, you know, like a superhero, you know?
Yeah.
And that's more, it's not as deep and serious. And that's what I had him pegged for.
I get you. I wanted to talk about the scene we got of Bert behind, like, hiding. It went quick, so I didn't really see what it was. Now I'm seeing that it's like 3 like holes poked out. I didn't know what it was, so I think that, like, I thought the whole time that they could be in the section above the gates, like right below where they were standing, because there's like the slits that you'd use for cannons or arrows, and I thought they were just going to be right under that. I didn't even think for 1 second they'd be within, like, by where the Titans are within the walls. That's terrifying. And they use like these like little.
Do you think that Bertholdt's in a different location within the wall? Maybe on the other side?
Probably, because we didn't see him
jump out.
And it would probably make more sense for them to be a little bit split up at least.
Especially when one of them grows into a very, very big Titan. They'll be fighting for space. But Bertholdt hasn't appeared where the Beast Titan and all of those other Titans have appeared already.
Which is another thing that we need to talk about when we get to, because that's Eren plugged up one of the walls, which I love the idea of, like, okay, say this mission is successful and people move back in. They're going to be daily reminded who did this for them. By, like, the face.
Oh, yeah,
like,
because his Titan form is literally locked eternity within the walls. Armin, oh my gosh, for this episode, you know, for Erwin's trust in Armin that we see in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool because we were just talking about what role he could play in the future and how useful he could be, and that Mikasa and Eren obviously have these things. Like, Mikasa is a part of the Ackerman family, and she has this super strength, and her memories couldn't get wiped. And Eren is a Titan, and, you know, Armin, we're like, he's kind of just a smart, nice kid, you know? But we're seeing that people in world appreciate his intuition.
It's nice.
And his strategy.
It's nice to see that it's recognized. He's already made that proof, and he's being given, like, charge. Like, there's this trust that Erwin has that, like, yeah, I think Erwin definitely recognizes that Armin's still, like, self-conscious or there's doubt in him, but he knows what there is deep down, and, like, he trusts that he can get over that and find the answer, which he did.
I almost see it as a parallel to, like, Levi. Levi's young. And he was probably one of the younger people that Erwin trusted that much with making decisions and leading people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he sees Armin in a similar vein where he's like, this is a young person, and despite their age, you can trust them with their quick thinking and their decision making and their intuition, just like how he trusted Levi from a young age.
Yeah. I think he's like has that ability to see within. I mean, remember when Erwin, like very early on after meeting Eren, like leaned in and asked him who he thought the real enemy was? I think that he let himself go in that sense because he could kind of see like that Eren was like a prodigy.
Right.
Like,
I think one of the marks of a good leader and a good person is not thinking that age and experience is the end all be all for who should be in charge or is smarter.
Yeah.
I think I think that it would be pretty realistic to see them not give any credence or credit or trust in those that are younger purely because of their age.
Yeah.
And we obviously see that in some of the reaction, the people that are now under Armin's command, where they even one of them grabbed hold of him like he was this little child, this little punk. And they were like, you're dumb. This isn't a game that you're playing. And Erwin immediately just snapped them out of it by making the call that he was going to believe Armin in that moment. Yeah. He was going to trust Armin. And I think that that's a mark of a really open-minded, Erwin's never going to get stuck, I guess. We've already known him now. I mean, it fits. He's a leader that's willing to grow and change techniques and new strategies, try new ways of thinking. We've already known him to be that. And this is just more evidence that he is that.
He has perspective that they aren't winning. Like, obviously, something different needs to be done to give them some sort of advantage or stepping stone. Before we get too far away from it, because I forgot this when we were talking about it, I had written down, do you remember what it was like the first time we opened Armin's book back in like episode 5 or 6? Do you remember if they read from it? What language was that book written in? Because I don't remember if they were just looking at the pictures, because Armin had the lines of talking about like the salt from the sea that was too much to like, it was so, I don't know if that was a direct line, something he was told.
He's kind of repeated that same kind of, so I feel like it's maybe more stories his parents told him and less like he was reading the book. So that is a good question. Is it a different language in that book? And he's focusing on the pictures, and his parents are the ones that knew what it said or knew what it was talking about.
Yeah. All I have is a legal book from Outside World in episode 5. I don't know if they said anything about a language, but I think that would be an interesting point.
Yeah, I just think I agree with you. I think maybe one of the things we can just call upon is that Armin has never changed or given us more description or more examples from that book other than those things that have been repeated multiple times, like salt and then like fiery water. And
it would almost, it's almost like teaching a kid like colors or something. Like you point to a picture and you say, this is that, this is that. It's like you're attributing very specific things that are not broad that like he's like mimicking back.
Yeah, mimicking. That's a good thing. He became attached to these core things that he remembers hearing about that he thought were the most fantastical and the most interesting. Yeah. And that's what he has retained and still brings up.
So, to the point of the episode that was the most what the fuck to me is, it's probably just because I'm stupid, and I apologize for that. But in regards to the pot on the ground, like, yeah, it's a pot. We've seen this before when Annie, Reiner, Berthold, and Marcel were around each other. Mm-hmm. We've seen that. They were drinking something like black tea.
And he said it smells good.
What is this? And then there's one more line about it. There were 3 cups with drops of black liquid in it. My initial reaction is coffee, because it's
I don't think that's dumb at all to think that it's coffee.
Well, no, like Occam's razor, right? Most obvious things, usually the correct answer, but why is that does that mean that there's no coffee in our world? Like, I
mean, we've talked about the fact that they are if this is Earth.
Yeah.
they're in a single location. It's possible that there are animals that they have not seen, and there are these agricultural elements. There are they've never been to the sea.
For sure. I know that. And maybe it's like, I just had this like assumption that like, oh, of course. But like, I wonder, I don't know enough about the coffee brewing process. I wonder what age in history tea was, I guess, first recorded versus coffee. Obviously, the process of making tea, I presume to be easier than making something like coffee. But like, I never thought this is something our world lacked, and now I feel like it is. Either it's coffee or it's something like Titan Power or something.
There's definitely a tea drink in like every culture.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, tea's basically leaves in water.
The black, it being similar to black tea, and the fact that there is something that looks a hell of a lot like a grinder that we've seen previously gives credence to it being coffee. But it could very well be something more mysterious. I'm just going Occam Razor BS with it, though, at the moment. See the little, like, slits on
those little holes? You thought they were in there?
I thought that they were in there, because I didn't really get a good look at what the holes that looked like were in front of Berthold's face. But they also kept showing, like, they kept panning down to it, or, like, I thought that for sure that's where they were. But they were somewhere else. And they had painted, like, props. They probably, like, made fake play sets in high school, you know, like a High School Musical backdrop or something.
You don't think that they created it like it was the actual material of the walls?
Nah, like some cardboard,
some musical theater,
some spray paint. Yeah, I do really love the appreciation of Armin in this episode, though. So like, I crave it and I love it every time we get it. Every moment in the series we've had like Armin talk, even when like the conversation that he used Annie as a bargaining chip and seemingly lied about torturing her. Like, I love it. I love seeing his intellect.
I want more and more examples of him being right.
Yeah.
Because I know that the other characters in the show trust him, especially like Eren and Mikasa. I know that the other characters think very highly of his brain. So I'm just glad to experience that more. And I kind of just want that to be all the time.
I mean, it's nice that everybody gets their own moments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I want all of the smart things and all of the good plans to come from him all the time.
Yeah, I get you. Even when, like, the conversation that he used Annie as a bargaining chip, and even when, like, the conversation that he used Annie as a bargaining chip, and that he used Annie as a bargaining chip, and
that he used Annie as a bargaining chip, and